Welcome to Royal Rebounds TV with Calvin and Barry. Just two crazy fans of the Sacramento Kings, and they sharing their opinion. So be sure that you subscribe. It's for the fans, by the fans. Whether you chilling on the couch or wilding in the stand. For laid-back conversations about the Kings, subscribe here. Staying down until we come up thinking this gonna be our year. We're here, drinking beer, talking about the Kings. Be sure you subscribe so you can hear that bell ring, yeah.
What up, Kings fans? Welcome back to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. The Sacramento Kings defeat the San Antonio Spurs tonight, 115-112. The Black Falcon leads all Kings scorers with 27 points. And the Spurs have Lonnie Walker score 30 points off the bench, but the Kings are able to weather the storm. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to smash that like button down below. And if you would like to join the Royal family with Calvin and I, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well.
Yes, thanks, Mike, for calling us out on Peja. We, what can I say? Kings haven't won much lately, right?
Yeah, let's flip them all. Let's flip them all around here. If you're listening via your favorite podcast platform, we would appreciate a 5-star rating. And if you would like to be a part of the show, you can always find us live after every single game on YouTube. We'll be right back with your Sacramento Kings Nightcap. We're here. We're drinking beers, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. That's delicious. Welcome back, everybody. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I see Sean, Sass, Fred, Mike. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Gothan, welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are not drinking any flat beers tonight. We had a friend. Shout out to Katie from Waikiki Brewing Company for dropping us off a ton of different beers. Calvin, are you diving into that 12%er?
I am. This is striking a chord with me. This is a Michigan beer. It's a special release beer from Founders Brewing Company called KBS, stands for Kentucky Breakfast Stout. People go crazy for this in the Midwest. So thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Thank you, Katie. I'm drinking a light beer right now, but I might be switching to a stout afterwards. We'll see how this show goes. What's up, Jim? How are you? Oh, man, Calvin, we got another victory. It just sounds so good. I know I was so pessimistic in the last podcast last night. I'm like, the season's over. It's over. The season's not over. Not quite yet. We still have quite a few games to go through, but the Kings officially tie the San Antonio Spurs in the win column at 24.
Yeah, you're either really happy because you got to see a Kings win, or you're really pissed because the Kings draft pick isn't as good today anymore.
Yeah,
or their chances of a good draft pick, I guess.
The Kings almost led this entire game until late in the fourth quarter, where the Spurs were able to take a small lead. The Kings were able to fight back and retain or rehab the lead there, and they didn't look back. I know there was some theatrical stuff happening towards the end of the game, a bunch of three-pointers, but the Kings were able to weather the storm. And, hey, it feels good to get another win, Calvin.
It's got to feel really good, especially if you're these players. The execution down the stretch was, honestly, it was better on the defensive end for the Kings than it was on the offensive end. There was a really key play there at the end. I felt like De'Aaron Fox, it's kind of a broken play at the end of the shot clock. De'Aaron Fox ends up taking a step-back three while Dante DiVincenzo is wide open. I realize neither of them have been shooting it that well, but I'll take a wide open three over a De'Aaron Fox contested step-back three any day. He misses that shot. DiVincenzo ends up getting the offensive rebound, though, gives it to Harrison Barnes for a layup. I felt like that was a really key moment there for the Kings as the game was beginning to end there.
Yeah, same.
And San Antonio was hot at that point, too. They had just taken their first lead and finally clawed their way back. So that was a really big offensive rebound. Sorry.
Yes, it was. The Kings roll out the same starting lineup they've had for the past 3 games, making them now 2-1 with this lineup of Trey Lyles. We didn't get to see Mo Harkless play again tonight, which is a little weird, but it seems to be pretty consistent now that if Mo Harkless is not starting, he is not getting any minutes in the game.
Yeah, he's an all-or-nothing kind of guy, I guess. I'm not really sure. But the Kings have had a few of those players this season. I mean, Chimezie Metu, I feel like, falls into that category.
Yep.
Tristan Thompson or Alex Len sometimes. You know, and Damian Jones was big for Sacramento off the bench today. Big.
We got to see a bunch of bench guys play some pretty significant minutes in this game. Damian Jones, 20 minutes for him, 24 minutes for Davion Mitchell, and 29 minutes for Donte DiVincenzo. I thought they all played great tonight.
They did. I was really, really happy with the defensive effort in this game. Again, you know, it wasn't perfect throughout the course of the entire game, but they came out and played the right way. And gave themselves a chance to win, and then when they were on fire there to start that third quarter, finally cooled off a ton, and when the shots started to not fall and San Antonio slowly makes their way back, you're thinking, oh man, this team
Here
is
we go
prime
again.
for another huge letdown. But give them a lot of credit. They stuck with it and clawed their way to a victory.
Yeah, and the Kings were very aggressive. One of the only positives that I took out of last night's game was the Kings were able to get to the free throw line. They doubled up the Pelicans in free throw attempts. They did the same thing tonight with the Spurs.
Yeah.
14 huge free throws for Harrison Barnes tonight. I love when the Kings are aggressive. I love when they're getting to the basket. I love when they're making the refs make calls and they're not just taking early threes or just contested jumpers.
Yeah, Harrison really made up for some very, very unfortunate turnovers there at the end of the third quarter and beginning of the fourth quarter when San Antonio went on that big run. But he stepped up and knocked down a bunch of free throws late and delivered there at the end.
And De'Aaron Fox, 0 turnovers tonight.
Which I'm still amazed by because in the second half he was throwing some really wild passes in there. I felt like he was actually forcing the pass too much because of how much success he had in the first half. He was rolling balls on the ground. It was getting a little bit out of control there, but somehow didn't turn it over. I really don't know how that happened.
Almost another double-double for De'Aaron Fox tonight. He actually made a couple three-pointers in this game, 40% from the three-point line. But, Calvin, let's dive here into the box score.
Well, as you mentioned, a huge, huge offensive night for both De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes. Fox with 26 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds, 0 turnovers. Also had 3 blocks and a steal in 39 minutes, and again, 50% from the field shooting. Harrison Barnes with 27 points, 11 of 14 at the foul line, and 5 rebounds. Sabonis, another near triple-double. Very, very routine numbers for him at this point. 12 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. And Justin Holiday, even though he didn't shoot well at all, still ends up with 12 points. And then the bench was much more productive tonight. Davion Mitchell, 8 points. Damian Jones with 10, and DiVincenzo with 11 to total it up there. Oh, thanks, Vinny. Sorry. That's one of Vinny's crowning achievements, right? Is that he sets up this stage perfectly for us every time. So I dropped the ball on that one. Sorry, Vinny.
No, that's okay. Another Vinny Squatch sighting, which is always exciting here. I'd like to see some more of these Kings guys get some rebounds. I know we saw Harrison Barnes earlier in the season, rebounding a little bit better. 12 rebounds tonight for Sabonis. I'd like to see another double-digit rebounder on this Kings squad. Unfortunately, Damian Jones is the only guy close with 7. And then after that, you have Donte DiVincenzo with 6 rebounds. We raved about how good of a rebounder this guy is. But I think that's a need that the Kings have going into this offseason. And it's tough when you play with a black hole like Sabonis. And I'm not saying that in a negative sense. I'm just saying in the fact that, this guy is such a rebound hog that when it's coming off the rim, he's usually right there. He's heavily involved. But I'd like to see the Kings do a little bit better job rebounding.
I was actually really happy with the rebounding tonight. I mean, they out-rebounded San Antonio by 10, 49-39 as a team. As I mentioned, and you mentioned, DiVincenzo, Harrison Barnes, those are guys who are fantastic rebounders for their size. And the beauty of having Sabonis on this team, not just the fact that he's a great rebounder, but the rake and take, as they call it, or the grab and go, where he's able to get a rebound and then immediately start the transition or the fast break or the early offense the other direction, allows these guys to get out and run a little bit more. So I think, 50 rebounds as a team, just about. You out-rebound your opponent by 10. I'm pretty happy with it.
I'm being a little
overall.
nitpicky here. I know it's a win. I'm just looking to things to build off of for the rest of the season and next season as well. I didn't take a lot of notes in this game, Calvin. I was afraid. I was watching the game early on. I'm like, okay, the Kings are playing well. They started out really hot in this game. I'm like, okay, here we go again. They're playing with my emotions again. Why couldn't have they just won last night or lost tonight?
Yeah.
I'm tired of this win one, lose one, win one, lose 2 or 3. But it's okay. It's a win. I'll take it.
And the way this game ended, too, I mean, it's just coming every possession. DeJounte Murray hits that 3 to get him with one, or to pull within 2 with like 1 or 2 seconds left. And you're like, God, how unlucky is this team? Are they really going to find a way to lose this game?
Yeah, what's up, T? We are also happy the Kings won this game. Anything that really jumped out to you in the team stats tonight, Calvin? I know the Kings didn't shoot well again from three-point range, only 31%. As I mentioned, they doubled up the Spurs with free throw attempts, 16 total for San Antonio, 32 for Sacramento. And then, as you mentioned, they out-rebounded the other team. Anything else that really stuck out to you here?
Well, it's just impressive that the Kings won this game when you look at the team stats, because normally you'd look at this, 64 points in the paint for San Antonio to just 46 for the Kings. The three-point shooting, as you alluded to, normally when the Kings have games like that, they don't do too well.
And they turn the ball over 15 times.
And they turn the ball over a lot in the second half, too. We've seen a ton of games this season where the Kings shot really well, got points in the paint, and they still lost because their defense wasn't good enough. So, again, give them credit that in a tight game there when they lost the lead at the end, coming off of a really, really rough second half performance against the Pelicans, that they made enough plays to get this one done.
Yeah, the Kings pretty much dominated this game. I know it doesn't reflect it in the score here, the final score. The Kings only win by 3. They were up by 19 at one point in this game. And I got to think that if Lonnie Walker didn't shoot as well as he did tonight, the Spurs would have been blown out in this game. This guy almost set a new career high. He's 1 away from a career high, and I like Lonnie Walker a lot.
He had 22 at halftime. I mean, the fact that the guy couldn't miss in the first half.
And I actually do like Lonnie Walker a lot. I think he's a great player, but the Kings continue to have this other guy that gets buckets against them. It seems to be a constant trend with this team that – either the star player is playing out of his mind, or the others, or 1 or 2 of these other guys seem to have a career night. And that's almost what Lonnie Walker had tonight. But, you look at this Spurs team, it's still a Greg Popovich run team. They don't turn the ball over very much. Yep. They do the things that they need to win games generally. Great schematics, stuff like that. I was a little surprised they only shot 50% from the free throw line. I thought that had a big impact on the Spurs. I know, the Kings were up by 19 at one point, but if the Spurs had converted on a few more of those free throws, this game could have gone to overtime.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you do really love Lonnie Walker. I really expected you to come into this show just hot about what your plan is to get Lonnie Walker on the Kings for next season.
Hey, we might talk about that in the next section, Calvin, but we're talking about the game right now. You want to dive here into your what your keys for the game were? And real quick, we got a bunch of people watching right now. I just want to give a shout out to all you guys, every Kings fan that's here watching. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the team. It's tough, like you're losing games constantly. This is going to be 16 years, setting the record for most consecutive seasons not making the playoffs, and we're all still here rooting for our team. So thank you guys so much. I feel very similar in the fact that, it's painful watching these games. It's even more painful getting up here and talking about it for an hour after you lose a game. But we're all Kings fans. We all want the same thing, and we're all sticking together. So make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and go Kings.
Well said. My keys to the game tonight, number one was guard the three. Everybody not named Lonnie Walker. I think that was a success. But, a lot of those shots were contested. He just hit nearly everything. It was it was very impressive. Number two was talk on D. I liked the defensive effort from the Kings tonight. I thought that they did a really good job on DeJounte Murray. Kind of building a wall there. The Spurs did have a ton of paint points in the end, but they made stuff difficult for him, and you never really got the feeling like he took over or dominated this game, and he has done that a lot this season in his first All-Star year in the NBA. And then number three was find a way to play a complete game. We wanted to see that the Kings be able to have a sustained effort for 48 minutes as opposed to 24 minutes.
Not like last night.
Yeah, and there was maybe, a 5 to 8 minute period where the Kings really did not look good as the Spurs made that great comeback. But overall, I think it was a success. They were able to close out this game and not have the disastrous turnaround like they did last night.
And it's really surprising because I don't know how many of you guys watched the pregame show, but they were talking about how the Kings plane got delayed. They got stuck.
They were really driving that point home, I think, because they expected this game to be a blowout.
They're like, they were there for 4 hours, and then they had to turn around and get back on the plane. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and the Kings still weren't boarded, and blah, 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 and all this. They asked Alvin Gentry, and he's like, well, that just means that, we're going to have shorter shorter
his answer was great.
Minute spans for people, so they're not going to play the same consecutive minutes that they normally would. Maybe they need to do that more often because the Kings win tonight. Maybe. Charlie says, I'd like to see Sabonis a little more aggressive at the rim because he's getting defenders out of position and he's looking to pass and dudes aren't giving him an outlet or cutting to the basket.
I agree with that. I also think that Sabonis, I've seen him dribble himself into a really bad spot. A lot mostly in the past couple of games. He gets stuck a lot of times right underneath the basket. So yeah, you can say that people aren't cutting for him, but that's a horrible place to get caught with the ball without your dribble anymore. So I agree. I want him to be more aggressive too. I wish he would get to the free throw line a little bit more. Not all of that is on his shoulders. Sometimes he's got to get calls. And then he's played in foul trouble a lot the past few games also. So that limits how aggressive he can be both offensively and defensively too.
Yeah, and honestly, I see Derek here. Sabonis looked tired tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he was tired. Dealing with all that, playing on a back-to-back in a different city. I know last night probably took a lot out of these players just emotionally, physically, mentally. That was a really, really tough game to lose, especially after starting out so hot. And, I think a lot of people, they forget that these big guys are really beat up every single night, like down inside. Like it's a whole nother position to play when you're playing inside in the NBA. You have guys that are 200, 250, 300 pounds bumping into you, landing into you, elbowing you. I don't know how many of you guys have read Shaq's book, but Shaq had literally a traveling masseuse that would massage him every single day because he was getting beat up. He'd have bruises all over his body after every single game. It's no joke playing in the paint, Cal.
No, especially with guys that are that size and, have elbows the size of trucks. I would never want to get caught with one of those.
Jeff the Lefty, I heard James Ham say that the Kings should build around the big two on this team. However, I believe we have the big three, including HB.
I love Harrison Barnes. We've praised him all year long, and he is, as we said before, a really vital part of this team. Can he be like a third star or, the third can he play to this type of level for an entire season? A guy that's going to be in the 20s, low 20s points per game, shoot very, very well, very efficient. He's been consistent, but hasn't always, given him these types of numbers. I would love to see the Kings hang on to him. But if you're going to make a move that brings you another star to this team and it involves Harrison Barnes, I don't know. I'm still going to have to think about it, I guess.
Yeah, I like HB. I love it when HB is this aggressive. I think he's a constant professional. I think he's a great guy to have in the locker room. The only thing that I have against Harrison Barnes is he's a little bit older than this group of core players. So maybe his window doesn't line up with this core's window. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the only negative that I have about Harrison Barnes.
Will depend on this offseason, you know? I mean, if they're able to somehow keep Harrison Barnes and add another, you know, really talented borderline-ish star on this team, that accelerates this team's window, you know? They move closer to a win-now type situation. So we'll see how it all unfolds.
And on that point, if the Kings do decide that they want to grab another all-star or something, they're probably going to have to give up Harrison Barnes and a pick, both talent-wise and salary cap-wise as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. They still have Rashawn Holmes and a couple other guys, so we'll have to see.
What's up, Goffin? Jahan says, evening, guys. This just in. Kings still suck. Makes me so mad. I was on that one last night, JN, but I'm trying to take these one game at a time. I'm not getting too high. I'm not getting too low. But the Kings won tonight. It doesn't happen very often, so I'm enjoying it. I mean, 24 wins on the season.
Got to take them when we can, right?
There's not a lot of wins happening, but yeah. I was feeling so hot off of the Summer League championship. I'm like, we're the champions. Yes, we're going to make the playoffs this season.
Oh. I've spoken like a true Kings fan. I was feeling so hot off the Summer League championship.
We even took photos with it when we were at FanFest.
Yeah, I mean, just another thing to do there, I guess.
Yeah. I want to know how many of you are going to be going to the Farewell Arco event on March 19th. Let me know in the chat because Calvin and I are trying to go to that as well. So I'd really like to see how many of you plan on going. And JN, we're going to be in Sacramento on the 18th, possibly the 19th as well, for the Kings-Celtics game. So you have another chance to say hi to us. I work in downtown, but I had to put my dog down the night. Oh, man. Oh, no, down for the night, I think, to sleep.
Oh, okay.
I hope that's what you mean. Where do you work in downtown? Let us know. We'd be happy to come see you. Oh, man, Calvin. I got to ask you, King of the night. It's a tough one.
I'm going to go with De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
I mean, Harrison Barnes was big down the stretch with free throws, and he had a really good offensive game. But I felt like De'Aaron was largely in part the reason why the Kings built a big lead early on in this game. He was really, really, really good and really efficient right away. I mean, it almost looked too easy for him. He looked like he was just walking through the motions, taking exactly what the defense gave him. He was facilitating and getting guys involved very early on. And like I said, I liked his defensive effort on DeJounte Murray overall tonight as well. So I'm going to go with De'Aaron Fox.
Was it the turnovers? Did that have anything to do with it for you?
For Harrison Barnes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he had some pretty costly ones there in the third quarter. Overall, I think he played a really, really great game. But I'm just going to defer to De'Aaron Fox here just because he got himself going offensively, both creating shots for himself and for others. You know, Harrison Barnes, he can create shots for others, but that's not what he's out there to do on this team. He's out there to hit threes, get to the basket, get to the free throw line, create for himself. De'Aaron did a really good job of getting everybody involved.
Yeah, great game for De'Aaron Fox. He just continues to get better and better this season as the games go on. It might be a little bit too late, but I like seeing him.
I still think I know he hit a couple threes tonight. I think he settled for some threes late in the game that I didn't like. I would have much rather him try to get back to the basket or to the foul line instead. But that's pretty much the only complaint that I would have with him tonight.
Yeah. Jason, welcome to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are a Kings fan. We do live in Hawaii. We live in Maui. And I moved here about 12 years ago after I finished college. I was born and raised in Sacramento and in Davis. Calvin and I grew up together in Davis, and he moved out here a few years ago. What is it, 4 years now for you?
It is almost 4 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's wild.
Hawaii is an amazing place, and we actually live across the street from Kaanapali Beach, where Vivek Ranadive has a condo. So I run into him sometimes, and I also see a lot of cool NBA players here as well. But we try and make it back to Sacramento whenever we can. We went to a couple games last month. We went to the Fan Fest, and we will be there again in a couple weeks. So hopefully we'll get to meet you, Jason. So, Calvin, we got to take a look. I guess, was this our second look at Devin Vassell this season? I know you were huge on him in the draft. I want to know what you saw from him tonight, what you like, what you dislike. Did the Kings make the right decision? And how do you feel as far as this guy's NBA future now that you've seen him a few times?
Well, first of all, the Kings didn't have an opportunity to draft him because he was taken, I think, right in front of Tyrese. He was the 11th pick. I still like him. I think that he's in a great situation in San Antonio. He's a 3-and-D player, and his development maybe isn't quite as fast as some people thought it would be. I mean, some people had him in the top 6 or 7 on their draft boards going into that draft. He's probably not, or at least not yet, that good of a player. But like I said, I think it's a really good situation for him to be in San Antonio, and he's a very stereotypical, or stereotypical is not the right word, but he's the type of player that NBA teams want right now. Long, athletic wing defender who can shoot from the outside. He fits on, every team in the NBA for those reasons.
Yeah. And, to put things into perspective here, if you were to think of one of the best two-way players in the NBA, you'd probably think of a guy like Kawhi Leonard, who was actually on the Spurs. He was drafted by the Pacers, involved in that draft day trade for George Hill.
Yep.
He only averaged 7.9 points per game his first season. It took him 5 seasons before he averaged 20 points a game. So development takes time, even if you're touted as an NBA-ready 3-and-D guy. Anybody else you want to shout out on this Spurs team?
No, I mean, nobody really outside of DeJounte Murray still ends up with 29 points and 12 rebounds. Man,
the rebounds is crazy.
But he's had such a good year, and yeah, I mean, Lonnie Walker. You take those two guys away, the Kings win this game by 30. I mean, that's all they had tonight.
Yeah. How are you feeling about Zach Collins? I know he's been dealing with a ton of injuries. This is a guy that was actually drafted by Sacramento with the 10th pick, traded to Portland. I think we ended up with Harry Giles and maybe Scal, somebody like that. He's dealt with injuries. I think they took a waiver on him, bringing him to San Antonio. Is this guy done? What's going on with him? Because I'm not seeing the same guy that I saw in Portland.
It seems like that. I mean, you have to obviously let a little more time play out, but he's, like you said, had to deal with a ton of injuries, has really struggled to stay on the court, and then he just hasn't quite panned out the way people would have expected to. I kind of see his career being more of the same. Not that he'll continue to be hurt, but I'm not sure that I see him becoming a major star in this league anymore. I think that ship might have sailed.
That's a bummer. That really is. Alex said, what you guys willing to give up for Levine? A legit athletic 2-1 combo to pair with Fox that can hit the 3. I know it's a long shot, and our D wouldn't improve, but we'd be a high-powered offense.
Sure would. I mean, I think it's going to take an awful lot to get him, so I'm not really sure.
He's a free agent, right?
I don't believe so. Or is he restricted?
He's definitely not restricted because he's not on the rookie deal. For me, it's why would Zach LaVine want to come to Sacramento? Because ultimately, I think the decision is going to be into his hands. He's been in hell, basically, in Chicago for the past few years. He's finally getting better. The team is doing better. Why would he want to ruin all that and come to a team like Sacramento? I would like him to be on the Kings, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see why he would choose to come to Sacramento. I don't see it.
Yeah, he is going to be an unrestricted free agent next season. So you technically wouldn't have to give up anything to get him except for dollars.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't see why he would come to Sacramento, honestly.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that Chicago will probably do it whatever it takes to re-sign him anyway. in the offseason, but who knows?
Yep. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into your Sacramento Kings with Around the Crown. Welcome back. This is Around the Crown. We're talking all things Sacramento Kings and beyond. Join the royal family by hitting that subscribe button down below, and while you're down there, you might as well smash up that like button. Calvin, Felipe's got a question for you. What level of player you think the Kings can trade for if we give a top 5 pick Holmes and Davion Mitchell?
I mean, a top 5 pick and those two guys should be able to get you a really, really good player in return, I would think.
It depends on who's available.
It depends on who's available, and I also am not so sure that the Kings are going to end up with the 5th pick or a top 5 pick. But if you're in there, you should be able to get a pretty good player, I would think.
Yeah, it takes two to tango. That's true for any trade. You know, a lot of Kings fans like to talk about trades, right? And I like to as well. We talk about trades, we talk about the draft. And the reason that is because we don't really have a chance in free agency. Like I was just talking about Zach Levine. Like free agents simply don't come to Sacramento. The Kings have to draft players. They have to trade for players. That has been the way that they've been able to bring talent here. Very limited talent, but that's the only way they've been able to bring talent here. Now, unless De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis both make the All-Star team next season and they are looking like the next Shaq and Kobe or some kind of futuristic tandem, I don't see many free agents putting Sacramento on the top of their list. However, Sacramento has been used in the past for leverage for other teams, and we talked about it on a couple podcasts ago. This Kings team has over $20 million in cap space. So there's not a lot of other teams in the NBA that currently have that much cap space. The Kings can even clear more as well. So there are possibilities as far as trades, but it really comes down to who's available. If you were to ask me who I would like to trade those guys for, I mean, that's easy. A Bradley Beal. I'd be happy with a Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I mean, you're expecting or you're trying to get an all-star in return for that, I think, for sure.
I really like John Collins a lot.
I don't know if that's realistic or not, those players.
I really like John Collins a lot, but I don't think I'm giving up this much for John Collins. I'm probably going to try and keep Davion Mitchell. Maybe I give up the pick in Rashawn Holmes or the pick in potentially Harrison Barnes, and maybe I can get another young player back.
The other thing is when you have that high of a draft pick, too, you generally wait until the draft gets a lot closer, if not draft day, because as that time goes on, it changes, what a lot of teams are trying to do. Some teams are trying to move up into the top 5. Other guys become available. So, if the Kings were to land in that top 5, I don't think you would see anything happen right away. We wouldn't know whether or not they were going to make a deal involving that type of package probably until, right up to the draft.
I love Siakam, Felipe. I would be totally happy to bring in Siakam for those 3 assets. But like I said, it just comes down to the fact
I would definitely do that too.
If he's available. If he is available. But I think Siakam would fit this team perfectly. I really do. Sass, we're not good at, Sean, we're not good at shooting, but you already knew that. Sass wants to know, Calvin, why we don't try Jones as the power forward. I've talked about this for a while. I would love to put Damian Jones at the power forward. I think he could play and fit well next to Sabonis. That's been a need for the Kings for a long time here as a productive 4. I know Damian Jones doesn't have the resume that some of these other guys do, but I like his defensive versatility. I like some of the things I've seen from him on offense. I'd be happy to put him in the starting 5. How do you feel?
I'm not so sure I like it. I just don't think that Damian Jones is good enough to guard, or not good enough, is athletic enough or quick enough, has good enough foot speed to guard what a lot of power forwards look like in the NBA today. And then offensively, he's going to be near the basket a lot. He's going to take area or space away from Sabonis. He's not a good enough outside shooter to kind of stick out, and be a stretch for. I think it would be good for the Kings in their interior defense for sure. And they certainly couldn't do any worse than what the power forward position has been for them all season long. But I'm not totally sold on that, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you in the fact that I think Jones is a better half-court fit for this Kings roster. But as far as, like, the pace and space that they really want to run, I don't know if Damian Jones is that guy, or maybe he is that guy, but he's not that guy with Sabonis on the court. Like, I think he needs to be on the court with maybe 4 other guys that are running and gunning, which would put him on the bench. Metu and Lyles aren't good options. I mean, Lyles played incredible. Lyles had a better game 2 games ago than Damian Jones has had all season.
I think Damian Jones had a 23-point game, if I can remember correctly.
Not 26.
Well, Lyles didn't have 26.
I think it was 26.
22, I think.
22? Okay.
Either way, I mean, very close.
Buddha, I really hope Jones gets another contract. That would be great. Jim says,
I like Damian Jones a lot. I do think that there's a spot for him on this team. I just don't really see playing him as a power forward is all.
Jim said, would you guys trade it if we got the #1 pick?
Depends on what I'm getting back. I mean, that's right.
But your answer wasn't no.
No, it's
right?
not. It's never no.
If Zion was #1, you're saying no, right? If Anthony Davis was the #1 prospect, you're saying no,
yeah,
right?
I mean, I don't think that there is one of those type of generational players in this draft. No. So, you would definitely listen to what's available, but I'm gonna expect a lot back in return if I'm trading the #1 pick. Definitely.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty consistent on this channel. Definitely more consistent than the Kings have been in the fact that it doesn't matter who's getting traded or what's getting traded. Nobody is off the table for us as long as you're improving the team. And I think that goes for any player on this team, and I think that goes for the #1 pick as well.
Yeah.
If I'm Monty and I look at the #1 pick and I'm like, okay, is this guy ready to win now? Because
there's some players that I really like in this draft too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the #1 pick, that's why it would take a lot, and I would really have to strongly think and consider whatever the deal was, because I like Jabari Smith a lot, and I think he would fit in really well on this team. Chet Holmgren is another guy that's great. Bonchero. There's a few players here that I think could be really, really good for the Kings. It's not maybe they're not as win now type players as getting a trade going for somebody else, but there's some guys that could really, really fit nicely with this team.
That's what I was going to say too. The win now guys is if you're taking the #1 guy, you're probably kicking that playoff can down the road a little bit more, which, maybe Fox and Sabonis is enough to make it to the playoffs next year. Maybe it's enough to make it to the play-in next year. I'm not really sure, but, players that are drafted are usually not ready to perform right away. And it's a learning curve. They're younger, they're learning, they're developing their body. It usually takes a couple years before you see these guys make a big leap.
Yeah, it's a big step up to get for everything. You're playing twice as many games. The competition, obviously, the speed, the strength, the size of the NBA game. It's a huge, huge step up for everybody.
Yeah. Would you trade #1 for Tyrese Halliburton?
No.
There you go. You heard it here first, guys. Alex has an excellent point here, and I actually forgot about Donovan Mitchell, but I love Donovan a lot, and I've heard about this. Supposedly, he's having some weird things going on with the team. His question is, what does a trade look like for him? I'm done thinking we'll ever be good defensively. LOL, I'm down to just score a bunch and see what happens.
Well, Donovan Mitchell is a good two-way player. I mean, he'll play defense.
Yeah.
So I love Donovan Mitchell.
He locks up that two spot.
Shooting guard or power forward. Those are the two areas where the Kings could really upgrade. If you're able to get one of those top-tier players at either position, there's no question. You take it, I would say.
Yeah, Sass is right here. Can you imagine the poor play-by-play guys if Donovan and Davion Mitchell were on the floor together? Yeah, it's tough.
Barry knows that very well.
Yeah.
He struggled with it.
I called Donovan Mitchell, Davion Mitchell, probably the first couple podcasts that we had. People were making fun of me and all that. I don't care. But, yeah, that would be funny. But, no, I would love to have Donovan Mitchell on this team. I'm giving up anybody not named Fox. I mean, if it took Fox to get him, I'd probably do it. But
I would consider that.
Ideally, if I don't give up Fox and I don't give up Sabonis, I don't care what else it takes. It's a win. Because those three guys together, I am 100% confident I'll bet the house on making the playoffs with those three guys.
Yeah, that would be a really good start.
And I don't have a house to
really,
bet.
Really good start. Yeah.
But, yeah, those guys would. Yeah, you're right. Kings don't have a top 5 pick yet. Yeah, they just won another game. So, I mean, I don't really know what to say at this point for the Kings. It's almost like we're at the trade deadline again, right? Where we're like, the Kings need to choose a lane. They need to figure out what they're doing. Well, they decided they were going to compete. They're still losing games, but now they're still competing again. You know, the Kings are currently 24-41 on the season. They are tied with San Antonio in the wins column, but they are 3 games back in the loss column.
Yep. And look, Monty McNair, whether or not you agreed with the decision to trade Tyrese Halliburton, he got a deal done at the trade deadline that brought an all-star to this team and didn't give away any draft pick. So from that perspective, you know, maybe you have a little bit of faith in him this offseason that even if the Kings do end up winning a few of these games here at the stretch, maybe they make the play-in tournament, maybe they just miss it, and they don't end up with a top 5 pick. You know, there's at least some evidence now that would suggest Monty can still make some type of impactful move given the situation.
Yeah, I got more good news for you, Calvin. The Lakers are currently down 29 points right now to the Clippers.
Man, talk about a team that is imploding.
In the third quarter. So if they lose tonight, they will officially be 27-35 on the season. The Kings are still 6 losses ahead of or behind, however you want to say it. They have 6 more losses than the Lakers. Yeah. And how many games do we have left now?
I think 17.
17 games. So, I mean, there is time. You know, HB said in his press conference yesterday that it's, it was Sabonis yesterday that said that the ball is in their hands. They play the Pelicans again next week. He knows they lost to them last night, but it's not over. You know, I don't know if it will be officially over until maybe a week or two before the play-in. It could go down to the last game. It really could. But
we'll see.
The Kings have to be more consistent. They have to play better. They can't continue doing this win 1, lose 2, lose 3. They got to go on a run here.
They have to get hot and win a bunch of games in a row.
Yeah.
There's no way around that.
And the schedule's not getting any easier. Yeah. It's not. I think they actually have one of the toughest schedules to finish out the season and a ton of games on the road.
It's up there. It's not one of the top 4 or 5 toughest, I think, but it's hard.
All right, let's see here. Sorry, I'm reading through the chat. Do you think the Kings will make 27 wins this year?
Well, we all thought it was going to be more than 36. So
yeah. Luckily, I won on my Rams bets. Otherwise, I would be definitely behind there. But I think they could win two more games. Jeff, why not?
Yeah, I mean, as bad as they've looked at times this year, you would have to think that 2 wins is not too much to ask for in 17 games.
Alex said if we can get Donovan without giving up Sabonis or Fox, we're going to Sizzler and he's paying. That's awesome. I haven't been to Sizzler in a long time.
Me neither.
But I heard their margaritas are great.
Never had a margarita at Sizzler's.
Yeah, I haven't either. I just heard a lot of things. If the Lakers end up losing top 10, if the Lakers end up being top 10 in draft picks, do they lose it to New Orleans? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know what that pick was protected by. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't I want to say no, but
Have you saw all the things that are like the Lakers need to trade Anthony Davis? If they don't make the playoffs this season, they need to trade him. I saw like a mock trade of
people are now saying they should trade both him and LeBron.
I saw a mock trade of Anthony Davis for Jaylen Brown. How do you feel about that?
Man, I don't know. I'd have to think about that more. I mean, I love both players. I know everybody really hates Anthony Davis right now because he can't stay healthy, but
so
the guy is one of the best players in the league.
The Lakers pick that they sent to the Pelicans was top 8 protected last year, and it becomes unprotected in 2022.
Oh, man, Charlie, that's a tough one.
They conveyed the pick last year, right? I think they did.
That's what I thought.
So they can't trade consecutive picks. So I think the Lakers have their own pick this season, and then it's unprotected pick swap in 2023, an unprotected first in 2024, and an unprotected pick swap in 2025. So I believe that the Lakers do have their draft pick this year, and you know, with the Lakers' luck, it's probably going to be the number 2 overall pick because they just seem to always get the number 2 overall pick when they miss the playoffs.
Yeah. Them or Cleveland.
I just can't count how many
Charlie
guys.
says, would you trade a top 5 pick for Tyler Hero?
How is Tyler doing? I know he started off really hot.
Oh, he's stayed hot the whole year. I think he's still averaging right around 21 points a game off the bench. He's going to be the unanimous 6th man. He's had a fantastic season.
I would trade the top if I had a top 5 pick. Now, this is not top 3. This is not number 1. But if I had top 5, meaning 4 or 5, I would trade that pick for any guy that I think is young on a good contract, has a lot of potential, and is a starting level shooting guard or power forward that fits a need for Sacramento. And Tyler Hero falls right in that spot.
Yeah,
so
I would put him next to De'Aaron Fox. I think that would work very well.
So he's averaging 20 points a game this season, on 43% from the field, 38% from three-point range, and he's got some swagger too. I like Tyler Hero a lot, and I would definitely rock one of those jerseys too. I actually tried to get a Tyler Hero Miami jersey last year, but they were sold out. You know, those like neon ones.
Yeah,
those
City Edition.
Those were pretty dope.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Pretty dope. Did you end up watching that Phoenix Jones video yesterday?
No, I did not.
Vinny, did you watch it? You guys, did any of you guys watch Phoenix Jones? We talk about heroes.
Barry needs somebody to talk about Phoenix Jones with. So.
We started talking about heroes, so I'm thinking of superheroes. If you guys have not heard Phoenix Jones, go look him up on YouTube. He is crazy, man. The only real superhero. I guess there's like 300 superheroes in the United States walking around with costumes on, but he's the real legit one, like ex-MMA fighter.
He's the real legit
He
one.
fights crime in Seattle, so don't commit a crime in Seattle or you're going to pay the price. Come on, stick a fork in it. It's done. Pray for top 3 pick.
It's going to require a bunch of praying. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, see the problem with that is there's a draft lottery, right? So even if you have the worst record in the NBA, if you have the absolute worst record in the entire league, which at this point is what? You have Orlando and Houston are both tied at 15 wins. Because they changed the rules around, you still are more likely to get the 4th pick than you are to get 1, 2, or 3. So if you're Sacramento and you have, let's say, the 5th worst record in the league, you're more likely to stay in that or get leapfrogged by somebody else and end up at like 7, 8, 9 than you are to move up to 1, 2, or 3. So the Kings need to get lucky here, and I don't know. They need to do something.
Yeah, I mean, so much of that is out of their control, right? It's where the ping pong balls fall, and you still have 17 games left to determine what the final odds and record will be. So we're just going to have to wait to see how the Kings finish out the year. And Charlie, I like Jaden Ivey a lot too. I don't know. I mean, the Kings are so bad defensively, and he would really help that right away. I think he's a better defender right now than Tyler Hero is, but Tyler Hero is a much more polished offensive player, much better shooter. So that's a tough call. I like both of those guys. I think the Kings, I would rather see the Kings make a move that got a proven player.
Yeah.
If they're unable to get a deal done and they end up with one of these high draft picks and you land a guy like Jaden Ivey or Paulo Banchero or any of those, the top, 5 or 6 players considered in this draft, I'll still be okay with that because I think there are some good players that they could use. But I would, at this point, rather see the Kings try to accelerate their winning ability right now by going out and acquiring a win-ready player.
And not only that, but they need a guy that can get his own shot. Like, that's something Tyler Hero can definitely do. You see this Kings team go through, like look at last night's game. They go through these spurts where they just can't get a bucket. And you look at this roster, yeah, there's a lot of talent on this roster, but how many of these guys can actually go out and get a bucket, right? Like, how many guys on this Kings team can you really say, all right, we've missed the last 10 shots in a row. We need a bucket on this play. We're giving it to this guy. There's not a lot of guys on this team that can actually do that. And I feel like Tyler Hero is a guy that can do that. So I'm all in for him. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I like Tyler Hero. I like guys that, that can get their own shot and make space for themselves. And that's what this Kings team needs if they're going to take another step to make the playoffs. Defense is great. Rebounding's great. All those things are great. But I think you're going to have a bigger impact on this team bringing in a guy that can get his own shot and get something than a guy that can lock one person down on defense, because we've seen the Kings lock down one guy and then the other 5 guys get double-doubles.
Yeah. Yeah, better call Saul. There you go.
Yeah, we need to freeze the ping pong balls, I think. I think that's the way to do it, right, Calvin?
So they are, I don't know what that means.
Like the frozen envelope.
Oh, okay.
We need the frozen ping pong balls. Or we got to get Dan Gilbert's son or something to help us out, because that dude's like undefeated in the draft lottery. It's crazy. It's crazy. I want to know from you guys, who do you think the Kings are sending to the draft lottery this year? Was it Halliburton last season? I'm pretty sure it was him.
Maybe.
And then Vivek's daughter went.
Yeah.
Would they have like a GM go before? I don't know. But we need to get some luck here. We really need some luck. Or we need to make the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know. All right, Calvin, we ready to move on here?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
You're done talking about playoffs?
I can't talk about playoffs just yet. I can barely talk about the playing game.
All right, guys, it's break time again. But when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Kings' next week of basketball with Kings Crusade. Welcome to Royal Rebounds, the Sacramento Kings YouTube channel for fans by fans. The Kings continue their crusade to possibly make it to the play-in or back to the playoffs. Next up is the Dallas Mavericks. If you're a Kings fan, make sure you hit that like button down below, and please consider subscribing to the channel. Calvin, we get to see our favorite player, Luka Doncic, in the next game. I know it's still a sore subject for a lot of Kings fans, but I've moved on. How about you?
Have you?
I don't know.
I don't know if any Kings fan has moved on. Somebody just said, who was it? Oh, yeah, Jeff the lefty. Ping pong balls fell right in the Luka draft.
Yeah, they did.
Perfect segue. Here we go again. We're playing Luka Doncic. That guy's incredible.
So
I didn't even realize the type of numbers he was putting up this season.
Here's my question for you.
Look at his stats and you're like, what the?
If the Kings had won
30-point triple-double
won the lottery outright and they got the number 1 pick, are they still taking Bagley number 1? Because I honestly thought the Suns were going to take Doncic. They hired his coach. I thought they were going to draft him number 1 overall. So if you're Sacramento and you do get the number 1 pick, do you think they're still taking Bagley?
I don't know. I'm sure it would have changed their thought process, but I don't know who they would have taken.
Okay. Good to know. All right, let's jump here in your keys to the game.
I'm not sure what you want from me at that point.
I mean, I don't know.
So my keys to the game here, number one is going to be outside shooting. You know, the Kings, obviously, they're much, much better.
Ramon, dude, let's send the puke guy to the draft lottery.
Go.
Yes.
Puke guy, draft lottery.
I would love it. If we don't get the first, second, or third pick, puke all over the table.
Exactly. He'll just puke on them, whoever gets the first pick. Key number one is outside shooting. And the Kings obviously do a much better job or are much more competitive when they're hitting their outside shots. Dallas is a sneaky good defensive team. They're number 2 in the NBA in opponents scoring at 103 points per game. They're 4th in the NBA in opponents' three-point percentage and 3rd fewest three-point attempts allowed per game. Number 2 is going to be win the turnover battle. Again, it's another common story with the Kings. How well do they take care of the ball? If they are, under 14 turnovers, that they're usually pretty good or have a much better chance of winning. And Dallas is 3rd in the NBA in turnovers at just under 12 per game. The Kings are 20th in the NBA at almost 14 a game. And then number 3 is going to be fast break points and transition offense. We saw it today with the Kings. They were able to get out and start the break early on because they were getting defensive stops, getting rebounds, forcing turnovers. Their offense is tailor-made to play fast, but one of the best ways to start that or to get opportunities to play fast is to play defense and get stops. So that is obviously goes hand in hand.
Yeah, the Mavericks defeat the Golden State Warriors tonight, 122-113. They're playing big basketball, Calvin. Luka Doncic, 41 points tonight, 10 rebounds, 9 assists. We saw them ship away the zinger during the NBA trade deadline. They brought back Spencer Dinwiddie, 17 points for him tonight. The Mavericks are a little bit better than the Kings. They're currently in 5th place in the Western Conference.
Just a little
They're 13 games above 500. I was looking here at the standings, Calvin. It's pretty interesting. This is the first time in a while that I've seen that the top 8 teams in both conferences are all over 500. That's weird, right? Like, normally you'd think to be a playoff team, you need to be above 500.
Yeah.
But with the play-in, potentially New Orleans, potentially the Lakers, potentially the Kings could make the playoffs.
Yep.
10-plus games below 500.
We've seen, in recent years, a bunch of teams in the Eastern Conference, those 7 and 8 seeds make the playoffs with sub-500 records. But the East is so much better this year. So.
And you remember the We Believe Warriors team that upset the Mavericks in the first round? 8th seed. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the Porzingis deal? You like that for the Mavericks? You think they're a better team with Spencer Dinwiddie? I know he hasn't been healthy. I'm talking about Porzingis. Hasn't been healthy, especially in the playoffs for them.
Spencer Dinwiddie hasn't been healthy a lot either.
Yeah. How do you feel like this trade affects this Dallas team through the rest of the season?
Well, I think it's still to be determined. Dallas has kind of surprised me this year. I expected them to be a playoff team, but I didn't expect them to be this good defensively. And I think the move is good for them overall. I don't know about Spencer Dinwiddie with them long term, but I think that Porzingis and Doncic together, it looked great on paper, but it just wasn't working the way that they envisioned it. So I think it was a good decision for the Mavericks to move on from him.
Yeah, I really liked Porzingis a lot, but yeah.
I'm not picking them to come out of the West.
The best ability is availability, and the Kings actually had a chance to trade De'Aaron Fox for Porzingis, and then we would have drafted Doncic, and we would have tried the Doncic-Porzingis combo, which I really liked, but it didn't work out for the Dallas Mavericks. Looking here at the next few games for Sacramento, they take on the Mavericks, as we mentioned, on Saturday. Then on Monday, they are back home against the Knicks. Wednesday against the Nuggets. Then you head to Utah to face the Jazz. Back home against the Bulls. Then you have the Bucks, the Celtics, and the Suns all at home as well.
That's going to be a fun stretch.
That is a ton of tough games. I mean, you look here, Mavericks, good team. Knicks, they've been underperforming this year, but they're a better team than Sacramento. The Nuggets, the Kings just lost to them. Then you got the Jazz. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with Gobert and Mitchell.
Even Boston, who got
Still
off
a
to a
great
really
team.
slow start this
Yep.
year. They've been killing it lately. Jason Tatum Jaylen Brown is hurt now, but Jason Tatum's been on fire. They've played so much better since the All-Star break.
Then you got the Chicago Bulls that just about a week ago, they were on the top of the East. Then you have the reigning champs, the Bucks, then the Celtics, the Suns, who were in the finals last year.
Yep.
Oh, man, it is a very, very tough stretch of games. Man. Jonathan, the hecklers behind Katie tonight made me laugh when they said, we want Tyrese and we miss Buddy. I heard that. I was watching TV.
Yeah.
I was like, we want Tyrese back. I'm like, you're not in Sacramento. What's going on here? But it was interesting. There were quite a lot of Kings fans in the stands tonight in San Antonio. I was surprised.
Yeah, there's Kings fans all over the place, I guess. Nobody likes to drink alone, right?
Jay Drew says, breaking, Woj reports Nick Stauskas signs
Oh, yeah,
two-year deal
I was gonna bring
with the
this up today.
Celtics.
Yeah, so apparently he scored 100 points in 2 straight G League games. Had 57 one night and 43 the other night.
Okay.
Back-to-back games.
Okay. I thought you were like 100 in both, like in each game.
Combined.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Vivek will be happy to see him because I still remember him at the draft table. Stauskas.
Well, I don't know if he'll still be with the Celtics by the time the Kings play.
2-year
Boston,
deal, he
but-
says.
Oh, it's a 2-year? I thought it was a 10-day deal, 10-day contract.
I don't know. But that'd be exciting. I mean, I always root for guys, just not when they're playing against Sacramento. Unless we're trying to go for the pick, and I don't even know what I'm rooting for at this point. But the Kings win tonight. That's the most important thing. All right, Calvin, we ready to wrap up the show here? You got anything else you want to talk about?
Kings win. I think we can celebrate and call it a day, right? until the next game.
Yeah, Felipe says, yes, it is a 2-year deal. So hopefully we will get to see him in person on the 18th when we are in Sacramento. And hopefully we will see you all there as well. Thank you guys for watching another Royal Rebounds podcast. Make sure you check us out tomorrow for another episode of the Royal Report where we break down an entire week of Kings action in about 30 minutes. And then we will be here. We will give you another shoulder to cry on Saturday after the next game. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Have a wonderful evening. And in the meantime, go Kings.